Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cloudcast Show. This is Mario.
And I am Guillermo, and in this podcast, we will discuss latest advances in cloud technologies, the world of DevOps, and software development hacks. All these to make your life easier.
So, if you're a technology expert, you own a business, you are an IT director, or just a regular geek guy, then you came into the right place.
Okay, so welcome again, everybody. Today is a very special day because for the first time we are recording on video, right, Mario?
Yeah, we are live and loud in video.
Yeah, so you may be wondering why. And well, that's an easy explanation. The world is currently running into pandemic. Here in Mexico, the situation is not very critical yet, but we are taking our precautions to not spread or get infected by these terrible virus. So again, if you would like to implement a remote methodology to work with your team, either on your organization or outsource it, please read our blogs or listen to our previous podcast where we talk about that. So today's topic is planning your own infrastructure in the cloud for your fintech application. So fintech applications, fintech owners, listen up because we're giving some real tips. Okay, first of all, why you should be here. So you may be hearing this podcast or watching this video because you are a startup and want to start or want to create a fintech application, or you're already a fintech leader, a team leader, or an owner who is looking to build an application. If that's the case, well, you are in the right place. But why? Well, we already know as we dedicate ourselves to this, to all the cloud and software development, that there's a lot of complexity and there's a lot of rules that you need to meet in order to create your fintech application. But in this episode, we will explain you how you can comply with all these policies without dying or not getting crazy in implementation time, with a very simple way to do this, leveraging AWS technologies.
Okay, guys, well, first point, we're going to be talking about the well-architected framework. We'll be covering the majority of the points that the framework covers and recommended in order to get an infrastructure that will work for your fintech company. And number one is security and trustability. Number two, resiliency and scalability. Number three, strong backup policies and process. And number four, high performance for high demand applications. And number five, and most important, the budget control, because we don't want you to pay much, but we want you to have an application that performs well.
That's right. And that's a very interesting topic because most of the cloud services that are right now offering fintech solutions, they pretty much overcharge once you're there. But if you're listening to these tips, you will see that you can cover all these solutions with AWS in a very real cost-effective way.
That's right. And next point, we are going to show you an example of an infrastructure that we built several days ago. And it's a high available infrastructure in AWS, covering or implementing the majority and trendy resources from AWS at the moment.
Okay, so what do we have here? So it's an application, as we can see, it's something with PHP. So if you're using a PHP application, or if you are looking to create a PHP application, fintechs, listen up, you will need to cover all these solutions inside your architecture. So you need to have it as much as similar as we have it right now.
Yeah, and you want to stay tuned at the end because we are going to show you, or we are giving away a CloudFormation template so you can build a similar infrastructure as the one that we are presenting here.
That's right. Okay, so fintech owners or fintech leaders, if you're creating a PHP application and you want to have it highly performant, secure, with CI and CD tools, and also leveraging the cloud-based practices, you must meet all the requirements that we're going to share right now with you. So as we can see in the inside, starting from the servers, these are servers, right, Mario? The ones that are hosting Nginx and PHP application.
Yeah, we are using an AC2 service, which is basically a virtual machine from AWS, where we are hosting the PHP application that Guillermo is going to tell you more about it.
Okay, so you're using EC2 for this.
Yeah.
It obviously also creates a VPC for you. So all your resources are inside a part of the cloud, which is secured and it's not reachable by everybody, right?
Yeah, it's just basically to add more security in your application and also to meet the requirements that most of the compliance like HIPAA, PCI, etc. are require you in order to provide to your users a secure application.
Okay, that's good. So we can also see a firewall there, which is the security groups in red. So it says that only the port 80, 443, and 22 are allowed.
That's
What
right.
do we have next? Okay, so next we have the Docker registry. It's important to mention that this application is running on Docker containers. So that's why we can see the Nginx and the PHP application container isolated one from another, because they are running on containers using Docker.
Yeah, and again, besides security, dividing the services into microservices is just not helping you to security, but also with performance, because you can manage each one of them as an individual service in AWS using Docker containers. So you can see how PHP is working, how Nginx is working, and how your database is working as well.
So
well,
that's
database is not in a container, but you can see all of them.
Yeah. Always consider that databases should always be sent to managed services, because managed services always offer more solutions like high scalability or serverless solutions. Also, a backups strategy already implemented. So managed services are the best way to go with databases, or either MySQL, NoSQL databases, Postgres, and Mongo, etc.
Yeah, I mean, you don't wanna Dockerize a database, even though you can. It's not a good practice. And as Guillermo said, you can use a managed service from AWS like Aurora, which will help you a lot with the processes and the queries and all the requests to the database.
That's right. In this case, you're using Aurora, right? Or what are you using? RDS?
Yeah, we're just using an RDS for MySQL. And we are also using one of the newest AWS resources, which is called RDS Proxy, which is helping you, or which will help you to have a backup, like a failover for RDS. So in the case that the RDS that you are using goes down, there will be another RDS already, to switch quickly using the RDS proxy, so your users will never be down.
Okay, so that's important, building up to resiliency in the application. What else? So we have heard a lot of container orchestration services like Docker Swarm, Kubernetes, and ECS. In this case, we're using ECS. Why are we using ECS on this? Because we know that ECS is a very optimized service to manage containers, a very secure service, and also an easier service to orchestrate all that we want to. So ECS offers a graphical user interface inside the AWS console that Kubernetes or Docker Swarm or any other orchestration tool would require to be installed inside the cluster. So ECS, it's easier to navigate, easier to set up, and faster in the implementation.
Yeah, and user interface, as you said, is very, 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 very easy to see. Even though you're not like a technical guy, you can go in and see if a job didn't work or something is failing with your Docker environment.
That's right, especially because it's all it's an AWS fully managed service. So they offer integrations with all the AWS tools like CloudWatch in this case. So the debugging can be very easy to go. What else do we have, Mario?
We also have ECS autoscaling, which is now it's also a new resource from AWS, and it will help you to autoscale your cluster containers, but not as a separate container, but the entire cluster. So that decreases a lot the work and the debugging when something is failing, because it's working in the cluster side instead of each container separately.
That's
And
great. So
we
that's
also, oh no, go ahead.
okay. So I was telling that's great because you're building up a lot of redundancy on this application. So
Yeah.
there are 3 ways in which you can scale this application. One is that at container level, you will get more containers when the demand needs. I mean, when there's a lot of traffic, you will scale up to more containers. And once you reach your capacity, you will be following with the second scaling option, which is adding another server.
Yeah.
And the third option would be when you meet the quantity of the servers that you are allowed, you will scale up to another ECS service or another ECS cluster, which would allow you a new quantity to cluster for clustering new servers up to a certain amount of servers, right?
Yeah, and you may be thinking like, it shouldn't be pretty hard to configure autoscaling in a container itself, but we just have here a minimum quantity of resources. Imagine you have a bigger application or a bigger environment, then it will be harder for you to manage all the containers and all the rules to the autoscaling and high availability. So that's why ECS autoscaling and ECS itself, along with ECR, are helping you a lot with high availability and managed services. So you don't have to worry about the small things, but to your application to work well.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Okay, so anything else that you may want to add from the application? I think that one thing to note here also is that ECS, it's running on different servers. Therefore, there's an application load balancer serving to all these servers. And the application load balancer is also highly scalable and optimized to serve all the requests that come from your traffic.
Yeah, and it's just a second layer of high availability. Let's say that you have a small e-commerce application and you have around, I don't know, 100 users per month, but suddenly you have 1,000 users, and then you don't know what to do. Well, the load balancer and the autoscaling will launch another instance to help you to handle those requests, and that will be automatically.
Okay, that's great. So I think that we have covered most of the server level things, let's say. What do we have from the code side? Where is the code stored and how does it get to the infrastructure?
Well, code is stored on GitLab. GitLab is a third-party tool which will help you to manage all your changes inside the code, and it will manage also. It will help you to manage the integration and the deployments to your applications.
So basically, you're storing all the code on GitLab. It could be, as I can see here, it's hosted on an EC2 instance. So fintech applications who are really strict on the security, they can host their own GitLab server on one instance. Obviously, they will be maintaining it, but the code would not be shared with any third party. So
Yeah,
that would be it. So you're storing your code there, and as I can see, you have two different branches, one from staging and one to production.
yeah. Staying is just like a QA or like a pre-phase to production, and that helps us to deploy or to make change into another phase or another environment other than production, just to test new things or new features or new change into the code without affecting the production or the final users. So we have two branches there, and those two branches are using code build, code pipeline, and code deploy, which are AWS development tools that will manage all the deployments to the production or to stay.
So, and what's interesting that you have a production branch and a staging branch, meaning that these two branches, one is for staging purposes, for development purposes, testing all the new changes or new feature releases, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
And they will be deployed to a similar environment that what we can see from the diagram.
Yeah, even though staying has like a less process or less power process than production.
Yeah,
As you
less
said,
resources.
yeah, less resources just to control the budget, because we don't wanna like
Yeah,
go big with the budget.
overspend on something that's not being used.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we have something that works for us, but also works for our budget.
okay, perfect. And also, I think that if you're on GitLab, you're running pipelines, GitLab pipelines.
That's right.
And after that, you will be sending this code or this package of code to AWS, which at their AWS Dev Tools will be in charge of building, testing the application before deploying it to production, and also follow a pipeline to deploy it to the specific environment that it's targeted.
Yeah, that's right. And shout out to our GitLab folks, because they did a great job with GitLab pipelines and all the deployments. So we can push changes into staging first, and then, as you said, the change will go through code build, code pipeline, and code deploy to AWS, to the staging environment in AWS. And once the tester is already done with user cases, then we can merge to production. And if something goes wrong, then GitLab and AWS will stop the deploy and will alert us on a Slack configuration with an alarm that we did in CloudWatch that something is wrong and we need to fix it. And we
That's right.
can go back to GitLab and see fix the errors easily, and we can either fix them inside GitLab or using our IDE, whatever we are using.
Okay, so basically you're following a blue and green deployment strategy, I think.
Yeah.
And this makes your application more stable when releasing new code. And that's, gentlemen, one feature that's awesome. So whenever you are planning to create this infrastructure, you should call the experts. Why? Because they can provide you the tips, as we are right now, to implement these kind of applications. So if you're in the need of creating an application, you can shoot us an email at info@clickittech.com.
Yeah, because in the other hand, you need to ask your final users to go out or to log out your application in order to make changes. And that's not cool. That's not something that user experience will help you a lot. And blue-green deployment, you can make changes without your final users to notice.
Yeah, and that's something that people or companies are not taking a good approach with, and that's where we can help and tackle these difficulties for you.
That's right.
So I think that we have covered most of the infrastructure. One thing that we are missing is the security. Overall, what do we have from security?
Well, overall, we already have VPCs configured, which means every resource from AWS is working in an isolated network, and we are using subnets networking rules to communicate them with each other. But we also have GuardDuty. GuardDuty is a new resource from AWS, and it it analyzes CloudWatch and CloudTrail and other logs like Sentry logs to tell us if there is something wrong with the application, or we have an intrusion, or we have something that we need to fix in order to meet the security criteria.
Okay. So that's CloudWatch or that's CloudTrail?
That's GuardDuty. GuardDuty is using machine learning, and it analyzes the CloudWatch, CloudTrail, and also Sentry logs. So you have like a centralized application that will help you with security in order to detect frauds, detect intrusions, detect security patch that you may need to apply into your application.
Okay, that's perfect. And
Yeah,
that's adding one more layer to the security, which is already provided by all the subnetting, VPC, Docker containers, isolation, ECS management that you're doing. And that becomes very, very good at the end. So it provides you a stronger and safe infrastructure in place. Okay, and finally, what do we have at the DNS level? What's serving the application, which could be called that it's serverless?
Serverless. Well, we divided the application into two. One is the backend and one is the front end. And back in the days, you used to have different servers or all into one server. But we already divided the static content, like images, like code, like something that doesn't change a lot with the time. And they are stored in a S3 bucket. And then we are using a CloudFront distribution to distribute this content into the world. So we are costing the front end in an S3 bucket, which is cheaper compared to whatever EC2 instance or whatever server resource in AWS, but it's the same. I mean, performance, it's the same. Security, it's the same. To the final user, it's the same. And that's magic.
Same or even better, right? Because we're talking about fully managed services that are able to scale up or down based on demand.
That's right.
And I think that's it. We have covered most of I think, everything in the diagram.
Yeah.
So, yeah, gentlemen, whenever you're building an application, always take a good approach to cover all these solutions, especially if you're working with multiple technologies like Docker, ECS, auto-scaling, Route 53, load balancing. Make sure that you have all these in place to provide a better user experience and also to comply with all of the rules that are required by the PCI compliance policies.
Correct. And I think we did miss one thing, and it's the CloudFront formation template. We mentioned We mentioned at the beginning that we are giving away a cloud formation template, so you can build a similar infrastructure like this to your own fintech application or to your whatever application purpose is. So, Guillermo, you want to tell us what is the process to get this cloud formation template?
Of course, you can either do two things. You can send us an email at info@clickittech.com, and we will send you back a response and confirm with you what are the resources that you need to create, and we will elaborate this confirmation template free of charge just for you. Or you can comment in the comment section of YouTube or whatever platform you are seeing this, and we will get in contact with you. If you result the winner, it's going to be a raffle, and we will provide it also to you. So you can have this infrastructure or a similar infrastructure as this, covering the same services for free.
That's right. And that's our gift to against the coronavirus.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, guys, so we have reached the end of the podcast or the videocast, however you want to call it. So our conclusions would be when you try to create a fintech infrastructure, to follow the well-architected framework provided by AWS. It will help you. This checklist will help you very much to comply with the performance, backup, resiliency, data privacy and security required by PCI, and a lot of things that your application should be doing.
And number two, automate everything that you can. I mean, seriously, everything that you can, because it will help you not only to decrease human errors, but also to save a lot of time when making new changes, fixing errors, or delivering faster to the work.
Okay?
Yeah.
Number two would be using container solutions or containerized solutions to decrease your time to market, improve your security and your scalability. So take in mind always using Docker because it will ease your life. At first, you will think that it's a very complex task, but once your team and everybody is used to it, it's much better. All the time to market decreases because you're not dealing with changes on the code or versions or miscompatibilities. So use Docker.
Yeah, and number four is trust open source technology. I mean, be open to use them, be open to flexibility, to free access to different resources in the cloud. And I mean, hacking thing and all that stuff, it's something from the past. And nowadays, open source are more secure or same security as the licensed resources in the cloud.
That's right. And number five, monitor your environment with cloud native tools. Leverage the tools that AWS or the clouds already offered to you, and do good things with all the data that you can retrieve. I think that would be it.
Yeah, those are the 5 points that you need to follow in order to build your own fintech application infrastructure.
Thank you, everybody. That's all for today, and hope you had a very good week. See you in the next one.
And a very good quarantine.
That's right.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you guys for listening. If you like the podcast, please subscribe to it. And if you need more information, you can follow us on our website, clickittech.com, or on social media, click it Smart Technologies. See you in the next episode.